All right, welcome, and to the, what number are we? 17th. Oh, I was looking for a number. 17th Board of Directors meeting, we have MSAD 52. Peter Wickle will start the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, where's my owl?
Yeah, so just, we have a recording, a little bit different recording. We've got audio for sure. Whether or not we'll have video, we don't know. The owl is not present, so I just letting people know.
We have the hummingbird instead. Is that the recorder?
The
There's
camera for about, yes, there's two going. So
Okay.
we'll see if we get something. But we
Just out of
definitely have
curiosity,
audio.
where's the other one?
The owl?
It's
No.
my
No.
phone over there by the door.
Oh,
Stereoscopic.
oh, pretty,
Stop.
very impressive.
We'll see.
Yes.
MacGyver.
Hey, you always impressed me. All right. We have 4 sets of minutes to act on. First of all would be the minutes of the 15th regular meeting for April 10th. Those are a corrected set from previous meeting. Does anybody have any questions or concerns regarding the meetings for the 15th of April 10th? Okay, seeing none. Move to accept. 16th regular meeting, May 1st. Does anybody have any questions, concerns regarding the minutes for the meeting for the 16th? Okay, seeing none. The minutes for May 8th, the district budget vote. Do we have any questions or concerns regarding those minutes? Okay, last but not least, the minutes for the May 8th emergency meeting. Anybody have any questions or concerns regarding those? All right, seeing none, move to accept all those. All right. I'm just going to have a very brief, I'm here temporarily for 2 or 3 or 4 meetings, depending. So I'll do my best to fill in. I do want to say, I'm going to step out of place here a little bit, thank Coral for participating. I've been on the board for many years, off and on, and having a student representative that has stayed consistent is beyond impressive. And I just want to thank you, me personally, for taking the time and speaking up when possible, because your voice is important as part of the board. There's a reason for a student rep. So hopefully we can get somebody to continue that. Past precedence makes me nervous, but hopefully we can. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say. So I guess at that point, we can do that
So-
later.
We can do it right now.
Okay.
So we have a card for you, Coral, and some lovely spring flowers for you. And as superintendent, I am really grateful to have the opportunity to have you as a student member here, because my job, unlike being a principal, you have less and less contact with students. So I've absolutely enjoyed being able to hear from you and talk with you and communicate and have you here. So thank you.
Thank you.
And happy graduation.
Oh, yes.
Congratulations.
12? Until June 2nd.
That's important for you too, Kale.
I know.
So, all right. That being said, we're going to move on to public comment. Do we have any public wishing to comment today? All right, we have a couple. So, in that case, public comment preamble. Our board meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying out official business of our schools. It is important to note that meetings of the board are open to the public. However, they are not public forums. At each full meeting of the board, time is allocated to provide opportunities for citizens and employees to express opinions and concerns related to the matters under consideration by the board. These comments shall be within the guidelines set forth in board policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings. Copies of the policy are available here and on the district's website. I would like to highlight the following parts. The chair is responsible for recognizing all speakers. We ask that the speakers identify themselves by sharing the name and town of residence. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes to express their views. Speakers should direct all comments to the board, specifically the board chair. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to the opinions of the public that relate to school and education matters. It is not intended to be a conversation or debate of issues. We know that school-related issues can be emotional, but we ask that civility is maintained. We will not permit profanity, gossip, defamatory comments, shouting at one another, or comments that disparage or attack individuals or groups. The board is faced with many important issues. For the sake of efficiency, the board discourages the duplication or repetition of comments. The board will not permit complaints or allegations against staff members. We certainly care about these concerns, but they are personnel matters, which the board is not permitted to hear in the public. If there are complaints against staff, these will be handled appropriately through our complaint policy, KE. To reiterate, this is just a highlight of the key points. Please refer to policy BEDH for a complete description of our public participation policy. Okay, with that being said, who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Absolutely, thank you. Could you please speak your name and the town you're from, please?
My name is Diane Rhines from Green, and I came to support Mr. Shostak. I think he's doing a great job of keeping the taxpayers and the parents informed on school board issues. Transparency equals trust, and Mr. Shostak is transparent and he's keeping us informed, so we appreciate that. The taxpayers have a right to know everything that's going on in the school board, on the school board. I mean, you work for us, right? And I totally trust and support Mr. Shostak. He has proven himself trustworthy and accountable, and most importantly, transparent to we the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I, yes, please, state full name and town, please. I'm sorry, yes. You're the only one that raised your hand right there.
Crystal Nicholas from Green. I want to thank the board for taking up the issue of the newly discovered MSAD 52 transgender guidelines and making that available to the public. Parents have searched the website, pored over policy, requested all sexual matters in any record, requested student and teacher handbooks, and shared screenshots of another district's policy to the superintendent and got nothing. I would like to know how parents are supposed to find documents that are hidden from us like this was. We knew that it was there, for both the Federalist and Defending Education both had articles about MSAD 52s having this record, but transparency was not offered. In fact, parents were greeted with this quote from our last regular meeting: "If you were a kid and a parent that these guidelines applied to, you would have them." That is a fantastic announcement, given this very document directs staff just how to not inform parents. So how exactly would a parent know about this? Maybe how Amber Levine found out that the school was transitioning her daughter by finding a breast binder that they gave to her. And this is the real crime, violation of due process. Under these guidelines, parents will lose their parental rights without ever having even been notified. Based on a few words of a child that are never formally charged or investigated, your parental rights are eroded or erased. Schools act as judge and jury based on an unverified statement. We ought to be grateful to Director Shostak for engaging in this thankless struggle on our behalf. He has done an excellent job bringing this issue to light, and we urge the board to direct the superintendent to make these guidelines public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Who would like to speak next? Anybody else? Please, name and.
Yeah, Bob Manchester from Turner. I commend the school board on their hard work over the past year. Number crunching, such a complicated school budgeting system is not easy. I would, however, like to highlight one member of the board, Anthony Shostak, because he has the ability to understand complicated issues the board has to deal with and can articulate those practical solutions. He brings common sense to the table and is willing to share common community values with the board. I want to hear more from Anthony in the future as the board tackles various issues, including DEI and transgender issues. These subjects can be swept under the rug because of their divisive nature and because the fear the school board and school officials have about tackling them. But alas, transparency is still the best option, so parents can be fully informed throughout the administrative process.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak today?
Ready?
Oh,
Sorry.
ladies first, and then I'll go with you. Name
I'm
and
Judy
town,
Manchester, Judy Manchester from Turner.
Thank you.
I like dealing with Anthony Shostak because he listens to our concerns. He has a lot of common sense and he is reasonable. Taxpayers have a right to know what is going on in the classroom, and Mr. Shostak advocates to make those materials available to us. And I want you all to know that I really appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Sir?
John Ryan from Turner.
Okay.
I also just want to show my support for Mr. Shostak.
Thank you very much, sir. Anybody else like to speak today? Please, name and town.
Christine Duplessis, and I live in Leeds.
Thank you.
Upon reviewing the last regular meeting, it is totally obvious that Mr. Shostak was being treated differently than everyone else. He was interrupted by the board chair and told he should keep his comments brief because he had already spoken so much when, in fact, he hadn't. When he called out this double standard, he was then ignored. Why isn't he treated with the same respect? Could it be that he's the consistent voice for transparency, for parents' rights, for accountability? Could it be because he's the one who isn't afraid to bring forward embarrassing information that the school district would rather keep hidden from parents and taxpayers? Could it be that he's the one who stands up for the First Amendment rights of community members when the board chair wants to silence us? It sure looks that way to those of us watching on the sidelines. If you can't treat everyone equally, why do you even bother with board norms? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Jimmy, I know you had your hand up. Anybody else? Jim, you're up.
Hello. Jimmy Childs, Leeds. You know, I've been coming to these for a long time. Long enough to where I guess I'm more comfortable to speak on things that other people aren't comfortable on hearing. I said in several meetings, including the last one, that we are living in different times. We all would love these school board situations to be more focused on school things, but the times we're living in are just so different. The fact that a young child, a child my kid's age, can come to school, and if they wanna view themselves differently, then and they say, I don't want my parents to know, the school staff will go behind the back and keep that a secret. So that means that the kid's the boss. These children are not the boss. We are the boss. The fact is that we don't let our kids be the bosses at home and just eat what they want, indulge what they want, is because we want to raise them in a particular way, you know, to respect people of, you know, that know more. As an adult, 46 years old, you live through your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, you really realize, you know, the things you thought you knew when you were younger, you know, you probably didn't have much of a clue about. So my hope is the people, us older people that realize that, can maybe treat our children that way, you know, not take advantage of vulnerable situations. You know, there's, I think, equal accountability. If somebody's gonna be accountable for their actions in a school board setting, I think other people or other actions that have happened in the past should be treated with the same account. We have asked for many things to get on the agenda, none of them ever has. So, you know, maybe some accountability, maybe change is coming through you, Peter, Ashley, I would hope so, I thank you for that. And I do wanna tell you something about Anthony. Anthony is the type of person, after knowing him for like 5 years now, that if he saw a young child running into the street, he's not looking around for mom and dad to rescue the child. He will put himself in harm's way to rescue that kid. So I thank you all for what you do, and you should be very honored and happy to have a guy like Anthony in here, bringing up the situations that we all, and I know a lot of you want to talk about, and at least he gets it going for you guys to come in and take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else would like to speak today? No? No? Thank you, folks, and we do appreciate your time and your time you take to come listen to us. Not many people do, so we appreciate that. All right, that takes us to, that takes us to the adjustments to the agenda. Okay, we're gonna do two
Communications.
Oh, I'm sorry, just jumping right ahead.
Yeah, you were.
You're excited. Well, I have no communications, other than there's gonna be adjustments to the gender leader. So,
I have some communications.
Carrie, go
Can I
for
go?
it then,
All right.
absolutely.
So I'm gonna provide you with some resignations. Lori Slovak, elementary teacher here at Leeds at the end of the school year. Allie Baxter, special ed at Tech 3 at Leeds at the end of the school year. Tenley Kelleher, bus driver, end of the school year, moving out of state. Reese Thibodeau, who was recently appointed teacher, she's resigning her Ed Tech 2 position at the end of the year because she's transitioning into being a teacher. And Selena Cower, pre-K Ed Tech 2 at Green Central School at the end of the year. We have one retirement, Carol Truchon, food service assistant at Turner Primary. And then the following transfers. So Cheryl Woodard, who is a pre-K teacher at TPS, is gonna be transferring to our brand new pre-K special ed coordinator teacher position, district-wide, for next school year. Wendy Anderson, who's currently a special ed teacher at Tripp Middle School, is transitioning to special ed building coordinator for Green Central School and Tripp Middle School for next year. Darlene Rollins, who's a special ed teacher here at Leeds, is transitioning to the special ed building coordinator for TES and TPS. And then Becca Burke, who is a kindergarten teacher at Green, is gonna be transferring here to Leeds as a special education teacher for next school year. And then we hired 3 subs. That's what I got.
Well, thank you very much. Right. Now we're gonna go to adjustments to the agenda. Tonight we have 2 adjustments. The first one is going to be just a deletion. We will not be having 10.4, which is the presentation by the Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Gillis, on the health and physical education curriculum. That is primarily because of in the previous subcommittee meeting, there were some questions brought up and we're sending it back to be looked at again. No, I was explaining.
You're keeping it in committee.
We're sending, well, keeping it whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other adjustment to the agenda is item 10.1, which we are moving up because it is our audit review. And the people who are gonna give us a review are eagerly awaiting on the other side of the internet there, we think.
No, they are, they emailed me.
Yes, and they've been in the waiting room. I'm just.
So that is what, so that's, we're gonna about to have a presentation, so we're going to.
So, why is it not visible? It was visible 2 minutes ago.
So if you all look through, this will someday be, all right, where's Bree? Remember we were talking about computers and technology at budget meetings? Just saying.
Okay, let's see what happens when I admit them.
This is we're about to see a presentation by R.H.R. Smith and Company, which are a 2024 audit with subtitles from Gabby.
Oh no.
We have one.
Can you guys hear us?
Can you folks hear us, all right?
Oh, see, cause ours
Is it here or
is
there?
black. Why is our screen black? Oh, that's working? Oh my god, I literally tested this. Are you texting with them, Gabby?
No, but I.
Tell them.
She's trying to see them through the back of the TV. She's trying to reach into them to say, hey, what's
Okay,
up?
what do I?
Wow.
She's already got it.
Alright, I'm gonna unplug it and plug it back in and see what happens.
Oh,
We're having a little technical difficulties, so give me 1 second, alright?
Okay,
sounds good. I can see you, I can hear you.
Yes, but you're not supposed to just see me, you're supposed to see everybody else, and it was working 5 minutes ago, so give me a minute.
I'll take this opportunity just to ask, what happened to our little owl friend?
it's just not on the premise today.
Oh, okay, so it's hiding.
It's hiding.
Okay. Hopefully we can get to refocus on it.
Can you hear us? Like, can you hear now?
I can.
Okay,
All right.
so here's the flaw. So you were supposed to be able to see the whole board. 5 minutes ago, you could have. For some reason, you can only see me right now. I have it on the right
I
camera.
already had a lot of conversations with them.
You just switch it up here, hang on. I'm gonna give it one or two more tries and then we're gonna bail and you can, the whole board can see you.
Yes, I can see the whole group now.
Okay, thank the Lord.
I'm sorry for that, but anyways.
Okay, so, Heather Hunter and Sam, I'm sorry, Sam, I don't know how to say your name. Oganoff, thank you, are, sharing the audit report from HRH, our auditors. So I'm gonna turn it over to you guys.
Thank you. I'll let Sam start and then we will jump into some details.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. To start, I'll just give you a brief overview. This year, we issued the highest opinion that we offered or issue, which is an unmodified opinion. Along with the audit itself and the financial statements, we issue a number of letters. One of those letters is the SAS 114 letter, which states that we had no major disagreements or concerns with management, which is great. The other letter that I believe you all have a copy of is the management letter, which primarily goes over some, I don't want to say concerns, but areas of improvement or recommendations that we had this year. One of those was a repeat comment from the year before, but I think that due to the timing of things and the busy lives of everybody, those recommendations weren't being able to be implemented. That one was the cash receipting one, I believe, the cash disbursements one. The other two, or the other four that are on there are general ledger reconciliations, which I know there was quite a bit of turnover at the district this year. Another one was the cash receipting comment, which is primarily just money that is received outside of the business office that wasn't really getting to the business office in a timely manner. And then the other two were just kind of documentation things, and I'll let you read through those. But I think that Gabby has provided a response to each of these, that it sounds like there's a good plan in place going forward.
Does anybody have any questions on those before I jump into the financial statements?
I'm not seeing any on this side.
Okay, great. Does everybody have a copy of the financial audit report in front of them?
Yes?
Okay, great. So what I will do is refer to certain page numbers within the actual document as I go through there. And I will start by including on page 5 is what's known as the management discussion and analysis. I won't kind of go through that in detail, but I will share with you, if you want a good synopsis of how the financial statements concluded for the year end, that's probably a great place to start. It shows a lot of the changes that I will be talking about in details in.
You just muted, Heather.
There we go. Talks about forward-looking items as well. I will start on page 13 of the document. Which is your statement of net position. This is the balance sheet for the district, but it's adjusted on a full accrual basis. So it records all of your assets, including your capital assets or your fixed assets, your land, your building, your depreciation, your equipment, and so forth. And it records all of your liabilities, whether they're due within a year or 10 years from now. This mirrors private sector accounting, so it kind of takes the entity and puts it into a comparable basis to private sector accounting. You will see on this page that your total assets equaled $34.8 million for FY24. That was a $17,000 decrease in the governmental funds. Cash totaled $9.9 million or 13%. That's a $1.2 million increase from 2023. Your capital assets, which are those fixed assets I talked about, are $23 million at the end of FY '24, and they represent about 66% of your total assets. On the liabilities, you will see that dropped by about $250,000 to $13.7 million. And your net position rose by $121,273. Let me make sure everybody's on the same page with that. So that would be on the next page. I should have on page 14 there. The net position totaled $21,249,000, and the unrestricted portion was $2.39 million. The restricted included those items that are earmarked with federal purposes. They could be district purposes that have been voted on, total of $1.25 million. On the next page, which is your statement of activities, that mirrors a profit and loss statement. The combined revenues, so if you take your charges per service and your operating grants and contributions, plus your general revenues, which total on the next page, page 16, all of the combined revenue totaled $42.6 million. And it climbed about 10% for this fiscal year end. And that's attributed to program and on behalf payments. The revenues outpaced expenses, which totaled $41.2 million by about $1.4 million. Between the two fiscal years, expenditures climbed $2.7 million, or just shy of 7%. That increase is primarily attributed to special education and program costs. You will see on page 16, towards the middle of the page, there was a net position correction of $1.2 million. That was due to reporting some capital assets and some leases that were omitted in the previous year that we picked up on this year, as well as a correction in some of the bond proceeds. Jumping down to page 17. This is a balance sheet that reflects a more traditional approach to governmental accounting. It's called a modified accrual approach. And it shows you the three major funds that the district has. And general fund will always be one of your major funds. You have school lunch, and then you have your ESSER money. Your general fund total assets increased by 13.5% to the $11,310,153 that you see. All of the increase is related to cash and investments. The cash increased by about $1.1 million, investments by $1 million respectively. And that cash balance makes up about 84% of your total assets. So you are very liquid and very able to navigate your expenditures as they come due. Your general fund liabilities total just shy of $3.6 million. They increased by 3.5%. And that fluctuation is all addressed in pretty much every account had some changes between the years. And you see that is not uncommon in the liability side of the house, depending on when the fiscal year and when the accrued payroll, that snapshot is. So you will see fluctuations between years to year, from year to year between the liabilities. And then your total fund balance for the general fund is $7.7 million. It jumped by just shy of $1.3 million. And your undersigned total of $5,494,539 represents 71% of total fund balance. And it increased by about 4.7% to the $5.5 million. This represents about 17% of annual expenditures. So about 2 months of your budget is available in your unassigned fund balance. That is a good, healthy fund balance. Typically, as a good school of thought, people like it somewhere between 5 and 15%. So it gives you some financial flexibility if there were any unexpected hiccups along the way. Your nutrition fund balance in total dropped slightly to the $933,798. And you were kind of deliberately drawing on some of that fund balance to get in compliance with some of the state requirements. So that was an expected decrease. And your ESSER money jumped about $657,000. And again, that would fall into both of those categories that you're seeing on the balance sheet. On the next page, actually 2 pages, page 19. You will see your revenues and expenditures for those 3 major funds, as well as all the rest of your funds. General fund revenue totaled $34.1 million. It increased by about $2.2 million, or 7%. The increase in taxes made up about $1.8 million, followed by intergovernmental revenue. Total expenditures were $32.9 million. It increased by about $2 million, or 6.4%. Again, the bulk of that increase is represented with salary increases and special education cost. Nutrition revenue dropped slightly by $23,000 to the $1,566,000 that you see there. And we're outpaced by the $1.6 million in expenditure. Now I'm going to jump to the footnotes. There's a couple of the footnotes that I like to highlight. The first one being on page 34, which is your debt footnote. This tends to show the debt roll forward, so what your balance was, if you had any additional, and then what you paid off. I'm showing in this particular case, you had no new bond issues. You paid off about $401,000 in your debt service, or 16% of the outstanding balance. You had a few new leases that were added to the debt service this year that comprised of various equipment leases. And then if you want to jump down to pages 38 through 40, this is where all the kind of dirty details are about your fund balance. So if you're looking for a particular program, you will find the detail on these pages. So you will see the restricted portion of your fund balance for your school lunch, your adult eds, and if you keep scrolling down, you'll see your commitment for general fund, what was invested or set aside for capital repairs, for special education. Your assigned balance, you will see that $742,500 that you earmarked to help balance the current FY 2025 budget. So that provides you a lot of detail if you're looking for a particular program or set aside. And then the last thing I will cover is on page 63 of your document is the budget. And further back into the financial statements, you will see a more detailed presentation of the budget by line item. But this is a good summary to refer to. In this particular case, you had a budget revenue of, first of all, you had no supplemental appropriations. You had budget revenues totaling just shy of $38.3 million. Your actual revenues came in at $38,572,097. So you over collected on revenue or had excess revenue of $275,556. On the expenditure portion, you had budgeted $32,494,266. You only spent $30,830,325. So that's where your expenditure savings totaled about $1.7 million. So between the two, the savings on the expenditure side and the surplus revenues coming in, you have about $1.9 million from the FY24 budget that provides you financial flexibility in the future years. And that's where you saw the growth in your fund balance at the end of FY24. So this concludes my portion of the presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Does anybody have any questions at this time? Ashley?
Based on your experience with auditing other districts, is a $1.9 million surplus, is that in a typical range of what you would expect to see for a district?
It's funny you say that. It's not uncommon. I am seeing, as I do these presentations for various municipalities and school districts, both for Maine and Vermont, people are carrying, having a little bit more surplus in the FY24 budget because they're recognizing some of their federal money is running out in future years. So this gives them a little bit more financial flexibility to balance those those upcoming budgets.
Yeah, so in this case, it seems a little different. Expenses were quite a bit under. Is that typical? Is that something you see often as well, or common? The expenses are coming in that much under what was budgeted?
We are seeing in the two areas, particularly in special education, because that's a program that is hard to really nail down cost when you're trying to calculate your budget. The other piece that you see is salaries and benefits that provide some fluctuation between the budget to actual as positions turn over, as people are struggling to fill vacant positions, particularly, bus drivers, ed techs and so forth. You are seeing everybody's, our firm as well is struggling to fill some of those positions. So it is clearly a challenging labor market still that everybody's experiencing.
I think that was a big piece for us, not being able to staff all the open positions.
Yep.
Anybody else have any? Oh, I'm sorry.
There were other reasons too, but that was the biggest qualifier.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Ashley, do you have any more? All right. I guess I'm not seeing. I think that answers all the questions we had on our end at this time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for having us. We appreciate Gabby and her team helping us with the audit this year, and hope the rest of the evening and the meeting goes well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, take care.
So the speaker on top's also the mic.
Yes.
Oh,
this whole
that's impressive.
I know, right? Debbie, they were great.
You get a sticker. Alright, so that was Article 10.1, which I believe we have that was just a presentation, so there's no vote or anything. So that takes us back to our committee reports. So, Finance Committee, Ashley,
We did not meet, this evening. Our next meeting is on May 29th at Turner Elementary School at 5:30.
Bless you. Thank you, Ashley. PTB, Kyle.
We did meet tonight, and we discussed, that we are gonna be looking at doing some adjustments potentially to our budget of our proposal of 3 vans, 2 buses. And we're gonna switch it to try to, drop to 1 bus and 6 vans. Getting pricing to see what that looks like, to be able to move forward to go to finance with it. Due to the fact that our vans are, getting really tired and they have, high mileage, and some of them are out of service because of it. We also talked about, the fields. Obviously, we're getting a lot of rain right now, so a lot of the fields are getting, pretty beat up, so they've had to limit some of the use on these fields. TPS, for the water, situation out there, we've submitted an application to the state for approval. Once approved, they, will end up, putting out the bid potentially for, engineering, or no, I think it was engineering, for.
Yes.
Yeah, and then, once that's approved, and we review it, we're gonna try to shoot to get our state mandated, deadline by June 30th. And then we discuss Green Central updates for the dehumidifiers. It sounds like we're on track to be able to stay cool, for the end of the school year. And, so we have 2 right now in the more troubled areas of the building, for the dehumidifiers, and we're looking at getting the other 2 installed this summer, which would be nice. We talked about Lead Central School. The roof is scheduled for June 16th, in quotations, weather permitting, obviously. And the ERVs are being installed, this summer. There's already some that have been installed, in some of the, I don't know which wing part of it on this side. And we also discussed the wastewater treatment plant. Sounds like we're a little bit delayed, but the equipment sounds like it's gonna be delivered, next week. So you'll start seeing down next to, central office, you'll start seeing equipment arrive. And our next meeting is June 12th at 5:30 at Turner Primary.
Did we shovel already? Golden start? You have a golden shovel already?
Oh yeah, got it spray painted, ready to go.
There you go.
You cut a ribbon too.
Cut a line. It's the sewer treatment plant, we're cutting a line there.
Yeah.
Of course.
Is there an update on the water here? The water situation at Leeds?
Can we have Shannon?
Yes, absolutely, please.
I do not know that. Shannon, go ahead.
We were cleared as of Monday. I haven't put it out because I don't have the official report, but we were cleared by both Daves. So we can drink out of it again.
Okay.
And they think it was just an abnormality.
Okay, cool, thank you.
The Daves.
The
The Daves said it's all right.
The Daves.
All right, anybody else? Any questions for Kyle? He had quite a bit going on today. All right, that takes us to policy, which we do nothing. Okay, curriculum. You guys gonna do something there? Okay. 3, curriculum committee.
We met tonight. It is our last meeting, so we will not be meeting again this school year. And we had some visitors at our meeting. We had Derek Jordan, who is the phys ed teacher at Green Central School. We had Caroline Labrie, who's a wellness teacher, health phys ed, at Levitt Area High School. And we looked over the health and the phys ed standards. And as it was mentioned in our adjustments to the agenda, we are going to scratch out the presentation tonight because we are kicking it back, keeping it in committee, kicking it back to the teachers. We had some questions about the standards. specifically the phys ed standards, so they're gonna take another look at it, and we'll look at it again in the fall, when they have time, because it's too late in the school year for them to go back and make changes at this point, but they heard our questions and our requests and thoughts, and then they'll go back and we'll see them again in the fall.
Anybody have any questions for Bree? Okay. Coral, your final meeting, final presentation.
So excited. I have a lot this time. I hope you guys don't mind.
So all year, the floor is yours.
So yesterday was our half day and we had our senior symposium presentations. We had people coming from the younger classes into the gym to look at the presentations, and we as seniors had a little bit of time to look at each other's. So I think that was cool. We were able to get an idea of what we've been spending this past semester doing. We had our show for theater last Friday and Saturday, which ended up being very successful. Next Tuesday, our Levitt Band and Chorus concert takes place. Anyone's interested, it's wonderful. We have prom this weekend, of course. Last one, super exciting. For me, not for everyone.
Apparently no
The
more
very
proms.
last prom.
Kill the tradition.
Yes, and then my last thing is I just wanted to thank you guys for this opportunity. It's really helpful that I was able to participate in this because I look forward to hopefully going into education, so having this perspective on the other side has been very helpful. I feel very grateful that my opinions had the opportunity to be heard and valued, and I do hope to continue to see change in the future, and some things are comfortable and those can remain the same. But yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Coral.
Yes, of course.
Alright, so that takes us to Rebecca Drysdale, Director of Special Education.
Administrative reports. So I had shared the update in special education in my administrative report, talking about the numbers of students we're learning for 3 and 4-year-olds, the process that we're in for pre-K, and then also some hiring. Does anybody have any questions about the board report?
I'm giving him just a second. We have Ashley?
Just a quick question. It says 3 and 4-year-olds. Are 4-year-olds not, is that new or were they always being identified previously? Just the 3-year-olds are new.
What's new is that we will be responsible for providing special education services to 4-year-olds as opposed to the child development services who've been previously responsible.
So 3 and 4-year-olds we're picking up.
We are, but only 3-year-olds that are receiving special education services. 4-year-olds are coming to pre-K, but both of that population previously had been serviced only through child development services.
Anybody else have any questions for Rebecca? That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our host, Shannon.
So we had some really exciting news in Leeds, and actually one other school too, but we a little while ago had applied for a grant, the Maine Inclusive Education Model School Project with the University of Maine at Farmington and some other University of Maine systems. And we found out today that we were accepted, so we are going to be part of a 5-year grant that funded, supported implementation for the multi-tiered systems of support. We'll have training for our teachers. There'll be more training for me and help communicating and with scheduling. So I asked Rebecca if she had anything to add to what I was throwing in there, but it's super exciting for us to have this support.
They will, so they're gonna be working on scheduling, to looking at service delivery, how services are being delivered to students with IEPs. They're also going to have an opportunity to have grant funding to look at having an inclusion facilitator, either somebody working within the school or somebody that the school might look to hire. So that will be a conversation. Also, there'll be a model school, so Leeds and our other school in the district will be a model school where people from MAID could come and see inclusion working within our schools. And they will also have an opportunity to participate in inclusion study with both Kate McLeod or Dr. Kate McLeod and Dr. Jessica Apgar. And I think that might turn into a research paper and publication. So it'll be very exciting to put MSAD 52 on the map in educational literature.
So we've kind of already started some of the pieces, because we used some of our school improvement grant to get started early, and already working on our schedules and that, so it was super exciting for us to get that and get that support for our teachers and our students. And whatever else I wrote.
So I'm just gonna tag on, 5 schools got this grant, 2 of them in our district. I'm just gonna say out loud so you don't have to wait. Turner Elementary School is the other school that received the grant. They both found out today, so I'm sure Kristen will provide more information when she does the report next time, but 2 of the 5 are here in this district, which is huge. And I think it's a huge testament to the work that Rebecca and Teresa have really led with the principals in sort of beginning that process of moving how we're doing business here, so it's really exciting.
It was a long application process, and then they came and did a site visit for 3 hours where they talked to a lot of staff.
Do you guys have any questions for Mr. Bartosz? Thank you so much. All right, Turner Primary School. Spola.
Good evening. So you've probably read through, I'll just highlight a couple things. It's always a busy time of year. We're doing a lot of end of year assessments, so we can see the growth of our students. So there's a variety of assessments going on. Plus, we get into some of the end of the year celebrations, and one thing I wanted to add to the list for May is we're having an arts gala night, actually 3 nights, where the Unified Arts team has developed a music performance, and there's going to be tech, and our guidance counselor will be there, and there will be art on display. So it'll be exciting. It's just a different twist. We usually have things done separately, so to have it all together, I think it'll make it for a nice family evening. And that's happening on May 27th, 28th, and 29th. Another highlight, I just wanted to talk about our behavioral data. It looks very different this year, and I just wanted to make the comment that, having Lindsay on board and having her this entire year, I think it's helped in our work with staff in identifying behaviors and doing the referrals, so then that we can respond. And we've worked quite a bit on certain things for certain grade levels, be it the playground or the classroom or common areas, but mostly playground, I'd say. So I just wanted to comment on that. The other thing you might see down below is one of our activities. We are having sappers come in to do presentations around, for the littles, it's around just personal space. They do activities with hula hoops, so kids understand, where their personal space is, where other personal space, and then talking about who are the safe adults. If you ever need help with anything, or you are feeling uncomfortable in a situation, who can you go to, whether it's a family member or someone at school. And particularly, it's important for schools to help every child have at least one trusted adult in the building that they feel like they could go to if they felt they needed something. So that's what I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Mrs. Fulch? Seeing any, thank you so much. And Mrs. Bates.
The first half of my report is mostly just updating data around attendance, behaviors, and as a reminder, we use the BAR model, building assets, reducing risks, and so I've updated that. We're pretty happy that Just over half the buildings falling at level 0, which means that they're thriving. So for middle school, that's quite the accomplishment. And holding steady at the 5% of students falling into the Community Connect area. Those are the kiddos that need the most support from us right now, but that aligns with the BAR model, which is like nationally normed. You heard tonight that we've hired a few staff for next year. Sometimes when we hire one teacher and it's a transfer, it creates an opening in another position. So we do have one special ed resource room position for next year open and one ed tech for next year. We've been working really hard over the last couple years to develop some common assessments within our content areas, and a really fun one that the entire ELA department, 7th grade, has been working on is around plastic pollution. And so, I don't know if you have color copies or not, but they've been developing some murals with graphic infographics, and the students created their own 2 and 3D models of sea creatures using recycled materials. So that's pretty cool if you walk around the building right now. And most of our time and energy has been spent on transitioning, more specifically the 3 incoming elementary schools. We've spent some time sending staff down to the elementary to talk to kiddos. Last week, Turner 6th grade came up. This week, Leeds and Green Central 6th grade students came up, had lunch, took a tour, met the Unified Arts teachers. And then yesterday, during the half day, the majority of our leadership team met together, and we call it draft day. And we use a lot of data from a lot of meetings that we've had to try and place students appropriately with advisors, similar to that one trusted adult that Kim was talking about, so everybody can have their person, with preferred peers, avoiding maybe people they've outgrown from being in the same elementary school for the last 6 years together. And most importantly, set them up so that we can ease their anxiety about the transition from elementary to middle school. So, questions?
Anybody have any questions for Jeff? Kyle, please.
What's the population looking like? I'm assuming it's a heavier population coming in.
Numbers wise?
Yeah.
So we're sending 180 to the high school, which is the biggest class we've sent in a while, and we're getting in 170. And so we're going to be about around 330. It's a little tough because some of the students are outplaced, but we'll be only about 10 less than we have right now, so floating around 330 again. And it looks like that's going to maintain for a couple years at least.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have any questions for Jeff? Thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, that takes us to Mrs. Gillis. Assistant Superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to update you on a few things that I've been doing lately for professional development. This week we had our second training for illustrative math, the program that we'll be using next year. This training involved teachers, principals, and instructional coaches. It was a repeat of a training that we had in March. Not everyone was able to attend because some of our teachers teach both reading and math. So that I was really excited to be there and to learn about the new program, and so that was good. And what else? As you may remember, I'm part of the Workforce Ready Research Project, and we recently hosted a Taco Bout Technology night for our teachers and those in surrounding districts. We had over 20 people in attendance with 7 districts besides our own represented, and today everyone received their certificates that attended. They were able to get contact hours for this. And my assistant ran in and told me that she had received an email back from a teacher in MSAD 17 saying, please consider us for future trainings. This was really exciting and very well planned out. So we will probably be doing something similar next year. This is one of the goals of the research project is to focus on technology and computer science integration in rural schools. So that was our fun night. Selection committee for visual and performing arts met recently. Several students were identified in both art and we had a music entry, which was super exciting. And today I finished administering the tiered fidelity inventory, which is a measure of the success of PBIS at our elementary schools. I did Green Central School and Turner Primary School, and Mallory Murphy, who is the other trained facilitator along with myself, is doing leads, I think Monday, and they have completed TES. This gives our PBIS teams a chance to see where their strengths are, and then from this data they create an action plan that will guide their work next year. And I have no updates on grant funding.
Do you have any questions? Thank you. All right, superintendent's report.
Yep, I got a bunch of stuff. So we did receive word that we have been approved for the private named paid family leave plan that we had voted on last time. So they turned that around fast. So we're good to go on that. On Friday, I attended spring conference hosted by Drummond and Woodson for legal updates. And there's two things. The thing that stood out to me, and I haven't even had this conversation with Rebecca yet, but there are two court cases they shared with us that have to do with special education services. And usually what happens, and Rebecca can attest to this, most court cases expand our responsibilities, so these two fall in that same category. Our responsibilities expanded when it comes to transportation and assistance students may need getting from their place of where they actually live to sort of like the end of a driveway, or if they lived in a multi-story house down, typically you pick the student at the end of the driveway. So it expanded our responsibilities there and also expanded our responsibilities for educational programs that may not happen during school hours. So my experience is that whenever we have to do more, it is directly related to a court case where a family has sort of said to a school, you're not doing what my child needs. So I don't know if these two things will impact us, but it certainly will change the regulations that we operate under. So just sharing that. Reunification training, Leeds was the final school to go. They did their practice on Wednesday on the half day. So all schools but the high school have now walked through the reunification plan. And so the next step is for us to organize a meeting with Eben and the team at the high school to create their plan so that we can have that ready to go. And then they can do a walkthrough probably in the fall at some point once we have that in place. Kyle mentioned this, we talked about field use at PTB, but I just wanted to say out loud that we've had youth programs, in particular the lacrosse program in Green, using the TPS field, but that field, now that it's getting a lot of use because we have spring lacrosse program, it's not able to keep up, so we had to actually pull all teams off of it for about 2 weeks, but I've made the decision to not allow the youth programs to use the fields for the remainder of the year in the summer because now that we've got a whole nother program running, the field's just not gonna be able to withstand the amount of use that it's having. So there'll be some ripple effects to that, but that was really something Dave Coburn and I decided together. So just feeling the pinch with lacrosse, which is awesome because we've got tons of kids playing and the program's taking off, but it's definitely causing some unintended things that we knew the fields were going to be an issue, but I think the amount of use in the spring that we've had with the rain, the combination has just made it really difficult. So field use will remain a conversation that we have. There's a bunch of consent agenda items I just want to talk through. So I'm recommending instructional coach for Tripp Middle School, Megan Fenton. You may recognize that name. She's a math teacher this year, but she had resigned to sort of look at different opportunities and then decided this was actually the opportunity she wanted, which we're excited to have her stay. She's really, really smart and a great teacher with some great skills. So we're gonna bring her back into the fold. We have a special ed teacher at the middle school, Megan Smith, who's coming to us from Lewiston with good recommendations and feeling as if she's gonna be a really good fit with the middle school. She knows the new math program that we're adopting, so comes to us already sort of ahead of the curve on that. And then we are hiring a new nurse at TES, Gina Crosby. She has been around for a while as a parent, but also has been subbing very regularly, both here and Leeds, I think, maybe in all the elementary schools, I'm not sure, but is very well respected when she subs, and so people feel like she's gonna start already with some good ideas and skills around that position. And then Angela Gallant, who will be a new teacher at Turner Primary School. Angela was hired in December for when a teacher left mid-year, and so that was just a one-year position. So the position reopened, and she's done an outstanding job, highly skilled teacher. We want to keep her on board, so I'm bringing her to you guys to for a permanent position. You also have in here a schedule of meetings for next year. I don't think we've made any mistakes, but if you find any, let us know. A couple of notes. This year we had to move some meetings to Wednesdays because there was some funkiness with Thursdays with student-led conferences and Halloween and all kinds of stuff. We did not have to do that this year, so I think we're okay. We're gonna keep with Thursdays. The 2 full budget workshops are in there as they were this year. So there shouldn't, and then the rotation of the subcommittees should be pretty similar to what we've been doing. And then finally, the item of the Chromebook donation. This is something we've done ever since I've been here, and I think the year prior to my arrival, and maybe prior to that. So I think it's 4 years. So all 3 years I've been here, and I think the year before I got here. So these are 4-year-old Chromebooks the seniors have had for the full time. And we feel it's a good decision to sort of send them off with this resource. It also means it's one less pile of technology that we sort of need to figure out what we're gonna do with them. They really are approaching end of life, so in terms of usefulness in other settings, they're not awesome. So we'd like to continue that tradition of sort of sending them off with those seniors. And then I just wanna remind everybody that the budget referendum is next Thursday between 1 and 7 in your town office. I would encourage everyone to please vote. That's what I got.
Anybody have any questions for Carrie? Anthony?
So the reunification plans, I think that's fabulous stuff, and I'm really grateful that you're working on it. Are we looking at just one school at a time with that? Are you guys rehearsing what would go wrong if all the schools have to send kids home?
So sending them home is not so much a concern. It is, so Leeds has a propane leak or a fire or something, and the kids can't stay here. Where will they go? And then how will we get them to their parents? And so that's the plan that we have, where all the schools, with the exception of high school, will go to the high school. Parents will be notified, get lots of communication, and we have a system for parents arriving, signing their kid out, and sending them off so that we can account for everybody and we know where everybody's gone. So transportation is a part of that. First responders in the area are part of that because traffic is a primary concern. It's a very sort of congested area of Turner. So we've met with fire and law enforcement to sort of figure out a traffic flow plan to control when Evan, myself, and Amanda, the middle school assistant principal, and Tyler did a FEMA training, and they're like, expect 4 adults for every child if you should have to do a reunification. So we just multiply by cars, and you already, if you know anything about the high school, middle school, TES area, there's a lot of cars already. So we've got a whole traffic plan for how to manage that. And then communication plan to make sure parents know what to do. Now that we've done all these trainings, we have flyers to go home. FEMA suggested that we don't keep it a secret where the location is, that we tell people ahead of time and sort of provide as much information as possible, so all that communication will start to go out as well. I just want to make sure that we've got a plan in place for the high school now that we've got everybody else, and then be able to get all that out to everyone.
So if there were 2 schools with an incident that happened, you would just stagger them? You just do?
It would depend. It would totally depend on the incident, right? Like if it's January and Green's got a fire, we just can't leave them there, right? So we will have to get them. But if we had 2 places, I mean, the high school could host 2 elementary schools easily, right? or the middle school and I mean, we could figure that out.
There's always room for one more.
Yeah. The best case scenario that we've discussed is that we have enough time to be able to dismiss the high school, right? Get them out. There's enough kids driving and things like that where we get them out of there to allow for that, but I mean, emergencies don't happen sort of in the best case scenario, they happen. I mean, if something were to go wrong here at 2:30 in the afternoon, well, the high school's gonna be empty by then, right? So getting Leeds kids over there is not gonna be an issue. If it's 9 o'clock in the morning, that's gonna be a whole different thing. So some of those decisions we can't really make ahead of time, but we have talked through, you know, what if.
Good. That's really what I want. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I was like that, Evan, they're smaller, so you can.
I get it.
Just so you know.
It's all good.
And anybody else have any other questions for Carrie? I'm not seeing any. Thank you very much, Carrie. All right, that takes us to the consent agenda. Items in this agenda are to be acted upon collectively unless a board member asks that a specific item be acted upon individually. Before I read down through this complete list, which I will momentarily, does anybody wish to have anything pulled out? Not seeing any. So, the consent agenda consists of Article 8.1, instructional nominations to be acted upon collectively after nominations have been read by the superintendent. 8.1.1, Tripp Middle School instructional coach. 8.1.2, Tripp Middle School special education resource teacher. 8.1.3, Turner Elementary School nurse. 8.1.4, Turner Primary School primary teacher assigned to the kindergarten. Article 8.2, approval of the 2025 to 26 board meeting schedule. Article 8.3, consideration and approval of the Finance Committee recommended March expenditure and operating reports. Article 8.4, consideration and approval of Policy Committee recommended first reading acknowledgement of policy GBCC, employee use of cell phones. And Article 8.5, consideration and approval of Chromebook donation to Levitt Area High School 2025 graduates, including Coral. Do I have a, thank you. Do I have a second? Alex. All those in favor? All right, that takes us to Article 9. This is 9.1, discussion of a motion made by Anthony Shostak, recommended by Kyle Purrington. Did I say that right, Kyle? Seconded, sorry. To direct the superintendent to make all staff and faculty guidelines and handbooks available on the district website. Now, this was just tabled, I can't remember, what did we do? So this was just tabled, so we don't have to make a motion to take, well, we have to make a motion to take it off the table, though. No, I'm just gonna pull it off, okay. Well, we're gonna take a motion to take it off the table then, I don't know. Do I have a motion? Anthony, thank you, do I have a second? Thank you, Kyle. All those in favor of bringing the motion forward to discuss? That is.
Seven?
All the Jenny.
Or you know or abstain?
Abstain.
Alright, since this was your motion, Anthony, I'm gonna let you start. If you have anything first, then I'll ask further.
Yeah, sure. I think that the, I mean, there are several things about a particular set of guidelines that are kind of troubling. But I don't think that we're here to talk about that tonight. It's just, to me, the fact that there are guidelines like that appear virtually identical to sample policies, and therefore they kind of function or have certainly the appearance of functioning like stealth policies that the board has not had a chance to weigh in on, because we don't do guidance, we do policies. It just seems to me that that the best course of action would be to make those very readily available to the school's stakeholders, the parents of kids in the district, taxpayers in the community, so that they can just see it, so that there aren't surprises like there were with a particular policy that was featured in a Federalist article, and so I will urge you all to support this motion to make these readily available without burdening the superintendent with forward requests, because that's how the mechanism that's in place for people to get such material is, and that it's kind of onerous and inefficient. I think if people could just click on it and see it for themselves, then great.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? Crystal?
I just have a question, for Carrie. The only guideline that has been circulated is about transgender students. What are the other guidelines that might be out there floating around for faculty that would be placed online for the world to see?
Yeah, so I've been doing some thinking about that, and I could not think of others because for and then I'll let Teresa add in there for sure, because now she's waving at me. So students, I think we had a brief email. I provide some information through email to the board so that we've got lots of different plans might be made for a student, right? So it could be an attendance plan, a behavior plan. Certainly an IEP is a legal document that would be made for an individual student. Teresa, did you want to add?
We have an attendance protocol that are guidelines for that the school's following in terms of children who are not attending school. We have some internet safety guidelines, some mental health resources.
Yeah.
We had talked about a few others too, but we want to bring it to the principals as well. They may have some other ideas.
Yeah, so we're just trying to think. Some of them are just guidance for staff members. Some of them are like if your student was struggling with attendance plan would be made with you in a meeting, or a behavior plan in a similar way. So I just want to be clear, these guidelines exist because we have to comply with the law, and that's the reason why they exist. So, and the intention certainly wasn't to be secretive about them, because if your student was in this situation, I said this at the last meeting, those guidelines would be there for you. Similar if your child had attendance issues, or if there was concerns about their academic progress, those, data around that and plans around that would be available to you as a parent. So I just want to be clear on that. And in the absence of policy, we have to follow the law, so I have to provide something to principals to help them make sure they navigate it in a way that's complies with the law. So my thinking around this though, we don't have, I think I said this before, we don't have a staff handbook, something obviously each building sort of has a variety of things. Green has this beautiful spreadsheet with lots of links in it. TES is sort of developing an onboarding thing. We don't have a common employee one, so it's obviously something that we need to work on. That's sort of been in discussions. But we do have a parent handbook that in my second year here, I sort of tagged Teresa with Cassandra to sort of build. And so we've put, that has been available on the website 2 years now. It was last year and this year when we created a district-wide handbook. There were individual ones at each school, but they weren't unified. So those are available on the website. So my suggestion would be that we build in a section of that combines a couple things that are already in the website, in the handbook, where it's sort of just student supports, and that in that would be whatever issues we think we can provide support on, whether they be mental health things, attendance, gender identity, whatever those things are, that we would list them there and link any relevant documents there that people could access. Because that is sort of the place where it makes sense to go versus just sort of a random link on the website, that it be part of the handbook that is clickable, that's available in the website. So that would, in my mind, is where they make sense to live. And they could be linked in there and people would have access to them from there. And we sort of we have a if you look at that online, it's got a table of contents where you can click right to the section of the form, to be able to look at those parts.
Kyle,
How do we establish the guidelines? I know you mentioned like it's like you might have to have, state law comes down and you have to take it adjust, but like if we set up a committee or anything like that to create that, or is that something that's more done by faculty on?
Administration, we wouldn't have teachers do that. If it was a legal compliance thing, it would be done by administration, and that was the case for me. Like when I got here, we didn't have a common sense, and I was like, all right, well, we have to be prepared in case this is an issue. And so we put that in place, and we did use sample policies for that from main school management as a starting place. If I don't do that, then I have to consult legal and pay money for it. So rather than do that, I sort of use that. And that had been my practice in my previous school. It was not something I invented. It was something that I had used at my previous schools, and so that's why we did that. And so, Peter and I had a conversation. I'll give you an example. So we looked at adding when the new Title IX regulations came out last summer. One of the only part of that regulation that we brought to the board had to do with pregnant students, right? Sort of, we looked at that policy once or twice, and then when those regulations were removed and replaced with the previous regulations, we sort of took it off the table. So Peter asked me a great question. He goes, do those regulations still exist? Did you keep them even though the board didn't do that? And we didn't, because there's no law that we have to comply with there. So we don't have any internal guidance for that, because there's no external law that we have to comply with. It was just part of those new Title IX regulations that we were given by the previous administration that are now gone. So those, they don't exist. Like, we don't have them internally as a guideline. So that would be the difference between things that aren't laws, that we don't have to, we're just gonna deal with individual students as things come up and use our guidance counselors and their training and social workers. But when there's a law involved that somebody could sue us, or, we could be violating somebody's rights, that's a different thing, and I don't wanna have principals sort of be hanging out there and potentially make the wrong decision, and then we end up with legal expenses. So that's really the difference between what those pregnancy ones were and what the transgender guidelines are.
Alex?
Yeah. So I would agree with Anthony that they should be on the website. I think what you outlined sounds great. And I may be skirting on the edge of topic discussion, but why why would these, if these have to deal with legal issue, like some of our policies do, why does a guideline stay a guideline as opposed to coming to the board?
It's not a required policy. Some policies are required and some are not, and this one's not. But if the board wants, certainly the board can talk about that as a policy, but it's not a required one. So that's why it just hasn't come as a policy.
So it's not required, but I guess it sounds required if it's protecting us legally.
So we have to follow the law. So there's lots of laws out there that we don't necessarily have a policy about, right? And of course I say that, and I should have an example, but like, waste the water at TPS, drinking water. I don't think we have any policies around drinking water, but we're gonna get in trouble if we don't fix the water at TPS, because the law requires, drinking water stuff. So we don't have a policy around that, but we have to follow that law. So that off the top of my head, that's an example of laws that we have to follow. There's lots of labor laws that Gabby has to follow in terms of timesheets and all that stuff that we don't have policies around, but labor laws are very clear and we have to follow them. So that's, I think, in my mind, the difference.
That was that. So, give them context. Anybody else have any questions for Carrie? All right, so the motion on the table, just for clarification. Teresa, do you mind reading it officially, what the motion is that we're voting on here?
Well,
That you,
I think this
we're
is
going
what
from
it
the
is.
motion that was spoken last time. We never actually restated
So-
it today.
Last time, at the last meeting, a motion was made by Anthony Shostak, seconded by Kyle Purrington, to direct the superintendent to make all staff and faculty guidelines and handbooks available on the district website at the May 1st, 2025 board meeting. So the motion was clear. I don't know why it says May 1st, because
I think it's just, that's when it was
that was
done.
at the, okay.
That was at that meeting. I think
Okay.
just reminding people.
before
And then
I just,
another motion was made tonight to discuss,
to take it off the table,
to take it off the table.
as we put it on the table, I guess. Before we move on, I just wanna clarify with Anthony and with Kyle, is that the motion you feel you made?
Yeah.
Okay, good, just wanna clarify. Great.
So I would like to make sure that this directive to the superintendent is like clearly understood, because I feel like just the word all is very broad. So I just wanna make sure that Anthony, who made the original motion, and that you, as the superintendent who'd have to follow this, understand what he means by all staff and faculty guidelines. Like do we need to be very specific about what that is, because all is a very broad word.
So I'm assuming, and I guess this would be helpful for me to clarify, that you mean any guidelines that have to do with students. Cause like I may have staff handbook that's, tells staff members when they're supposed to clock in, like it's, you know what I mean? Like that, it hasn't, it's about the employer relationship and the requirements we have for employees. Based on the conversation, I assume that you're talking about guidelines that have to do with students, that would be best situated in the parent handbook where parents can access them.
Right.
Yeah, please, yes. That was directed to you, so.
Yeah. I think that those will be the ones that would be of most interest.
Yeah, but
However, I think just make them all available. It's something that the teachers have access to. They are public documents, and it's a way where you then don't have to be burdened by any kind of request. If somebody wants that particular set of guidance about X, Y, or Z, and they request it through FOIA, then it's this, okay, that triggers this, and it takes time, and I have to, you see what I'm saying? Whereas we can just make it transparent. I don't think it hurts anything to say, this is what we're guiding the teachers to do with regard to whatever particular topic. So I would say all.
Yeah, I saw you asked earlier too.
Nope.
Oh, I did? Okay, so yes, please, Karen.
So, given that we don't currently have an employee handbook, but I know what the schools have, some of what the schools have might end up being confidential, like it may specifically have to do with, I don't know, I guess since we don't have an employee handbook, I can't speak to whether or not there might be something there that the parent one for sure, that one's available, and anything that has to do with students, we try to be as, it's like 20 page, 30 page, like there's a lot in there. So I wanna be, we try to be as transparent as possible. Since we don't have a staff one, I guess I just can't speak to whether or not it makes sense to do that. I guess I would prefer a little flexibility until there is one, and then certainly we can have the conversation again, because I don't know what will end up in there.
Just before I go to Bree, or anybody, does anybody else have any other questions? Hey, Bree?
So I do have a little bit of concern then about putting everything in just for, again, I don't want us to necessarily be lost in the shuffle of trying to get exactly what Anthony wants community members to be able to get at. I don't personally care what time the faculty have to arrive or whatever, or like when they resign that they have to turn in their badges and like that's just unnecessary additional information that we would get lost in on the website when we're trying to go through and click through in every single piece of information and guideline, especially if you're saying that one way that like Green Central and Leeds and TES and then the high schools, right, it might be a little bit different information for the teachers depending on the schools, right? I would like it to be a little bit more concise, and I would like to see us at least start with until we've had a chance to maybe go through every guideline for staff and faculty, because again, this can apply to bus drivers and custodial staff, like staff, office staff. I would like to at least see that is pertinent to parents and their children and their students, and less with all the other stuff that would not apply to us, that would just add too much stuff that then would get lost and we wouldn't be able to find the important details. So I'd like to make an amendment to this particular motion to clarify and be very specific in this wording, to direct the superintendent to make staff and faculty guidelines that pertain to students. Guidelines, handbooks, but I would take out the word handbooks because they don't exist. But guidelines specifically that pertain to students. And that includes the teacher, student.
Available on the district website, the rest of the sentence.
Don't we have a hand?
We have a parent-student handbook.
Correct, but I mean, as far as like the staff and faculty guideline and handbook, but there isn't a staff faculty handbook. So it's just guidelines.
So any guidelines that we provide to staff and faculty that pertain to students be available, and I would just put them all in the parent handbook.
Correct.
Okay, we have a amendment, we have a second from Crystal. Before we move on for discussion on the amendment, can I have a read back, Teresa?
Meeting, okay, sorry, I said that out loud. Bree Allard made an amendment to direct the superintendent to provide any guidelines given to faculty and staff that pertain to students available in the student handbook on the district website.
In the student handbook.
Is that what, cause I heard
Yes.
that picked up, okay.
Handbook on the website.
On the website. I'm not saying we wouldn't ever come back to it, but
Yeah.
let's just get that most important stuff on there right now.
Alright, Crystal, does that sound like what you seconded?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Ashley?
Question, would there be any guidelines not included in that could instruct faculty how to interact with students, but not necessarily an action item that comes out of the guideline?
Yeah, the only ones there's the policies, there's, all the policies that guide staff interactions. I don't, from the staff handbooks, the internal ones that I've seen, there's not anything additional, there's links to those policies. So, I'm not aware of anything, but certainly in this activity, we'll talk to principals, like, is there anything else out there? But I'm not aware of any others.
Can I just add? So each year when we select our benefits, which we're currently in that period now, we are required to read through specific policies, and staff conduct with students is one of them.
So there's an annual sign off that
Like
people have
people
reviewed
have
it.
to, and then principals do review additional, practices and policies, but I don't know that it's in a hand.
Follow up, I guess, that would be to a guideline that comes through that's not a form, or it's not something that's coming, it's not no action items coming out, but it's instructing, it's kind of like a guidance or a training tool. That would be of interest to the board. How would we pick up those, I guess? If we're narrowing this down to just the student-teacher relationship.
I'm not sure it's just student-teacher, cause there's plenty of things in the handbook that aren't about that relationship between students and teachers. They have to do with attendance and, I don't know, there's a gazillion of them. It's a big handbook.
You're talking about the student.
The parent handbook, yeah.
Yes, like any future guidance that may come down that, is recommended to take internally, that doesn't have an action item. How would the board see that and determine if that's something that should be in, if we're moving away from the word all, how are we catching some of those? That may be of interest to the board.
I'm gonna call myself just for a second, which breaking the rule, I told myself I wasn't gonna break. I just wanna clarify, my understanding from what I'm hearing is that the amendment will basically be anything that involves a student is going to be included in this motion. So it's somehow going to be either in the handbook or on the website, somehow or form. If it includes any sort of interaction with a student is going to be included. With the exception of guidance type stuff that is a whole different ballgame, which we can't get into at this point, I'm told. So that's what I'm saying. What you're looking to exclude is payroll stuff, benefit stuff, employee attendance, stuff like that is what you're looking to exclude.
Yeah, at this time.
That's just clarifying in my mind, I'm sorry, but so, I'm gonna step back again then. sorry, go.
So I'll give another example. So, you weren't on the board, but we, trained everybody in threat assessment a couple years ago, sent out lots of messaging to families saying we were gonna be using this process when we had some kind of threat within the building. I think, did we add that to the handbook? Is there a thing about threat assessment? But we were very public in sort of saying we were doing this, we provided video for families to watch. But the forums wouldn't necessarily be something like, you wanna protect that process a little bit because we've got people trained to evaluate a threat that a student has made to determine if it's a serious one, if we need to, so I mean, that, again, I'm trying to think of other things that we have done, but those have all been shared here, like that's been, and we talk about that, so I'm just trying to think of
Exceptions.
or other things that where we've changed our practice, and I'm just, that we haven't sort of talked about it. I can't think of anything.
Can I just ask a clarifying question to Ashley? Are you, referring to like, if there's like other guidelines coming from outside of our district that you're being made aware of? How would we bring that to the board for discussion?
Yeah,
Or are
I
you
guess
talking
if
about?
the Department of Education sends out a guideline, that's not a required policy, but it's a guideline, but it's not necessarily, the guideline that kind of caught the board's attention came with an action item. It came through with a follow-through steps, this is a form, something tangible came out of that. What if it's not something tangible, it's really just truly a guidance, this is a training document to keep on hand for the staff, how they should interact or handle this situation, but there's no form, there's no really, nothing's gonna come out of it other than there's something being trained on that says guidance. Is that something we can expect that would be picked up with that?
Yes.
If we're talking about a student handbook and it's something to do specifically with students, this handbook goes through an evaluation and it can be updated at any time, like we look at it annually, everybody that manages separate departments looks at it. I would think it probably would be put in if it's not anything to do with students. I mean, I think we have pest management in here too.
Yes, you do.
And people might think that pest management might not have to do with students, but we have a policy on it and we put it in here. We have something on personal property. So it's a combination of things that impact students. If it were something that impacts students and we would want families to know, I would believe that we would add it in here.
But do you feel, I'm sorry, but do you feel it'd be required with this motion? I'm hearing the word feel, but we're looking.
Well,
would
I
that be
guess I'm
required?
not clear on, Ashley hasn't named anything specifically, so I can't, we would have to discuss it.
I mean, the kind of stuff we get from the DOE is if they update special ed regulations, we have to, right, and there's connections to a law. I mean, almost all the time there's a connection to a law, otherwise it's internal stuff, and maybe, like, we have suicide, sort of protocols, but we also are by law required to train all of our teachers in suicide prevention. But the DOE, unless it's associated with a law, like they really, because of local control, like we're, you know what I mean, we have to, but they don't really send out stuff like that. The law is what dictates the transgender guidelines that we're talking about. Any kind of other things, I don't know, I can't think of anything in particular.
I can't either, so I guess unless Ashley had something specific, Carrie's right, our guidance is really connected to a law. A lot of the priority notices I get have to do with federal funding, auditing, how we need to do something. I just got one about a health survey that the nurses need to complete annually, it's a reminder.
Anthony?
So, what I'm hearing, is that by removing the word all, we're creating a lot of gray areas that need to be interpreted. And I think part of the beauty of using the word all is that it creates a certain kind of efficiency. These are documents, they have to be stored somewhere. They have to be shared with our faculty and staff somehow. We are increasingly doing that through hyperlinks to PDFs that live out there somewhere, right? And so, if that's the way that people are gonna get them, it's basically a flick of a switch to make that a publicly facing document, right? It can still live, and I understand, you know, Bree's concern about if we pile a whole bunch of irrelevant documents into the parent-student handbook, then the parent-student handbook is no longer a parent-student handbook. It's filled with everything and therefore is useless. So I'm not advocating that we put everything there. I'm advocating that we put the stuff relevant to there. But the other stuff, I'm saying, let's just make that public. They're the documents of the school district. They're guidance for the faculty and staff on X, Y, or Z. And there it is. They can find it there just as easily as anybody else can. So it's whether it lives in a faculty staff handbook or whether it's just a place where that stuff resides on the website, that kind of doesn't really matter. The point is that it's there, it's accessible, and because it's accessible, every time anybody asks for it, you can say, look on the website, it's right there. And it doesn't have to go through this laborious process that I think both, the FOIA process is one that just is cumbersome, let's just say. So I think there's a great deal of efficiency to be doing this way, and I think that it's not that different than what I would imagine. Let's say we did have a faculty staff handbook, it would probably be a PDF that you can consult by clicking on it. So it's just allowing that to be visible to the taxpayers.
Thank you, Anthony. Ashley?
That kind of changed my thought. Yeah, I guess question for admin, what, aside from confidential information that would reside in employee handbook that can't be made public, having like a district handbook, employee handbook, student handbook, whatever online, you know, are there really any
So we have
issues with it?
we have a staff section of the website that is available for staff to log in. And we store the teacher evaluation system there, like things that teachers use, their personal day form. Like, I think what I'm, the longer we talk about this, the more my brain is like, if we're talking about actually a not insignificant revision to the website so that it's actually useful, because right now, staff can get, no, sorry. So it turns into so it doesn't become, if I just turn off the staff part and make it part of just the website, I'm concerned that nobody will be able to find the thing that they're looking for, right? Because right now, staff can click on staff, log in, there's my personal day form, there's my, there's the standards for my evaluation, there's the book for my evaluation, there's the, like, they know what this, I need to submit a facilities request, I need to submit a tech request, like, that is like part of our workflow. So if I just make all of that, we'd have to redesign the website. Honestly, we'd have to redesign the website so that people actually could find the things they're looking for. Like, if I just turn that on and make it public, then I think we're gonna have to do some work on it so parents can still find the things that they actually care about and want, and then the staff can find the things that they need and want. And I don't think that's gonna happen overnight. I think that may require resources. The longer I think about this notion of just making one big public website, we don't have it set up that way now. So that would require a redesign, I think.
Crystal?
It feels very much like there's two silos, but then every once in a while there's like a bridge somewhere. And I feel like it would be very beneficial to have like the place where parents can go to find attendance stuff or gender stuff to review, or I feel like those things are probably already being given when those conversations about absenteeism are happening, or if there's questions about a child's gender, or any of those things, you're having those conversations with parents, or the parents are coming and having those conversations with you guys. And then I cannot imagine, frankly, caring about how people swipe in during the day or swipe out, or how they fill out for PTO or their personal time. I can't imagine. I don't care how any of you do it at your jobs. Like, I can't imagine the upload of that work for you guys on your end, redesigning an entire web page, and all of those avenues. Like, it seems like a really heavy lift for Wally and his department. I might be speaking out of turn for Wally, I don't know.
Ashley, it's next.
Teresa.
You said for Wally,
Or Jason,
yeah,
Jason,
I
sorry.
don't, when we initially had the website built, we paid a fee, so I don't know what that.
I don't know if
So
he
I
can
don't even
redesign it.
know
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
it can be redesigned without a cost.
Ashley,
Yeah, I think that may have gone a little too far from what the original motion was. I don't think anyone's expecting the staff login to be made publicly available and all of that.
Okay.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, but it's similar to how the policy book is online. It would just be an employee handbook is also available online, barring anything that's confidential. So more or less just be an added link. That's what I picture, and I certainly wouldn't support anything more than that.
Okay.
Not that I too would care to know who's popping in and out, but if it does clear up some of the gray area between the word all or restricting it, I don't see that as, I don't see any negative in it. If it's not made available yet, so you can't upload what you don't have, but if you're already making an employee handbook, and it's a public document anyhow, anyone wants to see it, then.
Yeah, if you're just talking about an employee handbook, again, it doesn't exist, so I can't say for sure there wouldn't be stuff in there that is confidential. I don't know that, right? I haven't made one. Each school has sort of done a bit to sort of fill that void. But the parent one, we've put a lot of energy into. That was a significant heavy lift 2 years ago that what we've been talking about has perfect connection to where all that stuff can live. And I think it's very clear that we'll be much more paying attention to those things that we think people will want that may be relevant to only 1 or 2 people, but we'll still make those connections. I mean, the will of the board is very clear, and that's fine. But I think to go so far as what the original motion was, that feels like a much larger task that I'm not sure I can pull off in any kind of fashion that's quick, cheap.
I just want to emphasize, right now, we're currently voting on the amendment, or not voting, discussing the amendment. We've been pretty one-sided on the table here right now, but, I'm gonna Bree, then Kyle, and then maybe hopefully we can.
Just to reiterate, the purpose of my amendment was to expedite this process. So we'll push back a little bit on the word all. Again, Anthony, it's not saying that we wouldn't ever put them on, but I think to get back to the heart of what you were requesting before was more specifically about transgender guidelines, as that's like the hot topic right now. We want to make sure that we can expedite those guidelines to public ASAP. So that's the reason for the amendment, is to be able to get some of these requests out there faster, expedite that. If we go with all, this could be 6 months, a year, and you would get nothing. So that's my kind of purpose, is can we start with the ones that are what is at the top of your list? And those are the ones that deal with issues for students, like the transgender one, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I wanted to say, could we be a little more specific of what is your want now, your need, this must be there now, versus what could you hold on to for later? Because it doesn't exist, so what can we give them time to say, they hear us, they hear requests, they know that we want to be able to see some additional guidelines, for teacher expectations and guidelines, but what do they have on hand right now that could be put on the website next week, versus what can we give them time to develop for a teacher handbook that wouldn't have legal, confidential implications, would not cost us a ton of money to revamp and redo an entire website that could take a year or more. So that's my purpose in the amendment.
That was a direct question, so I want you to go
It
after
is
Kyle if you have any interest.
rhetorical, but if you want to respond, you
No,
can.
but it was, so if you, Kyle?
I agree with Bree on the fact that just at least putting the information that we do have that's available, that it's not gonna take a lot of effort, I guess, to get it through, but I do, you know, there is some, you know, having public records, you know, put out there for the public to see if it's, you know, as long as it's not confidential or whatever. Part of the website, like I just think of the main inland fisheries and wildlife website, and it, like, the more documents they put on there, it just gets so, I mean, I
Right,
search
yeah,
and search and search,
yeah.
so it's like, I agree with that, cause it's keeping it simple, you know, it, so, yeah, that's all I have to say, I guess, about that.
Thank you, Kyle. Anthony, did you wanna add anything?
Just that I understand the not wanting to overburden, the administration with too much at once, and I think Kyle's absolutely right that it can become difficult to find things. But I think by requiring all, we're not telling the superintendent that she has to do it all at once. I mean, she could certainly use her initiative to say, I understand this was the hot issue, this is done, it's gonna take me some time to get these other things done. I think that we're thinking a little too broadly in terms of the all. The all refers to things that would be in a faculty handbook or staff handbook, not necessarily a form that you would, an internal form that you would fill out to get a water fountain fixed. That's not the sort of thing that I've ever encountered in a staff handbook, so that's not really what I was thinking about, and so I'm sorry if that became an issue of confusion. But I'm absolutely supportive of getting the student facing material, anything that a parent would or any taxpayer would find interesting with regard to how the school directs and guides its staff to interact with students in a way that, you know, parents would probably have, would absolutely have a right to know. That should absolutely be out there. So I'll stop there.
All right, does anybody have anything else, or we're feeling pretty comfortable to, right now, so I'm gonna call the vote on the amendment of Breeze. Teresa, can we have the amendment one more time before we vote, please?
Yes, Bree Allard made an amendment to the original motion to direct the superintendent to make any guidelines that are provided to faculty and staff regarding students, that pertain to students, to be in the student handbook on the district website.
Pretty clear? All those in favor of the amendment, please raise your hand.
Did you get 7? Did you vote? Ashley, did you vote?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, that was the 7, thank you.
All those opposed? Alright, so the motion on the table now stands as amended. Do we have any further discussion on the motion as amended? Seeing, oh,
Sorry, could I amend the motion? I would like to make a motion to amend the motion to say and parents, students and parents.
It's the parent handbook, so I think it's just a
I probably
it's the
didn't.
parent student handbook.
No, documents pertaining to students should say pertaining to students and parents.
alright, so all documents related to. Do we have a second on that? We have a second by Kyle. So let's clarify what it says. Can we, joys of being the secretary, Teresa.
Okay,
So let's see if we have what.
so the amendment is that all documents pertaining to students,
Staff and faculty guidelines.
staff and faculty guidelines that pertain to students and parents will be available in the student and family handbook that is on the district website.
Alright, so we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on that? We're adding to make sure that parents are included. Kyle?
What are you referring to as parents, like, as far as, or I guess looking for clarification, what you mean?
I cannot, I don't know. See, I don't know what guidance is out there, so there could be, I could imagine that there could be guidance that doesn't reference students but talks about parents. I don't know. So it's just making sure that if parents are referenced, that they're being included.
I can see it.
It's just
I can
two words, I
imagine-
can't see how it hurts anything.
Potential safety plans. Not all parents behave in a manner that's safe in a school, so there are times that I can remember where a safety plan may be made by staff regarding a parent.
But that.
But that, I'm
Okay,
sorry, Peter,
Hold on.
I just struggle. Like, I know you don't want me to go big, but like, I also don't wanna get caught in not putting stuff out there that you expect me to put out there. So I just really need the direction so I don't get it wrong, right? Like, I don't think that's,
Yep.
not asking too much, I just don't wanna get it wrong.
God, it's hard to be the chair and not speak. So, I know, but it's
I don't know why
supposed to.
you have that, is that your own
No,
policy
so it's
to
beat
yourself?
into myself. We're not supposed to really that much. The chairman's not supposed to get involved
Yeah,
in
but you don't
discussion.
get to not have a voice
I know.
either.
But I'll let Anthony go.
The document, in the case of what you were just using as an example, the document would be generic, it wouldn't be filled out, there would be no names on it. And it would just be, a parent can see that and say, oh, there's a form that if there's a trouble, if there's a parent who represents some kind of a danger, this kind of form gets filled out. It's not, there's never any confidential personal information on any of these, I should think, because they're forms. So that's it.
Jenny.
But pertaining to like what Carrie said, I know when my kids have been in school, we've had this encounter. Like, I feel like if those types of forms, even if they were vague, still gives the parent that is in question the information of how the school is going to react to the situation, which gives them an inside view on it. And it is a scary situation when that does happen, so I think there is some thought into exactly if you're opening that up.
Does anyone else have anyone to speak to and parents? I know you're thinking a lot about it right now. Brain's trying to.
In my mind, I think, Anthony, what the whole point of the conversation is about a parent's child and the interaction that the school will have with the parent's child, and that is what should be public, so parents will know. So I'm struggling a little bit with the parent part, because I think it's about that interaction with the child and what parents want and need to know about how the school will interact with their kid, and any plans that might get made that we would do in partnership with parents. So the stuff that we would do in partnership with parents makes sense. The stuff that plans that we might make, I guess if we add parents in there, I don't know if you mean like stuff we would do dealing with parents, like not about students. So that's what I'm thrown off by. Like, I don't know what that looks like, and I think it would be difficult for me to I would find myself second guessing as to whether or not something needs to belong in a parent-student handbook.
So since that was a direct question to you, Anthony, if you wanna respond, then I saw you,
Sure, I'll be as brief as I can. If it is a document that the school uses as, some kind of reference about how, a parent might have to be dealt with through legal channels or something like that, or that could result in the state assuming some of their parental rights, I think that ought to be a public document. Again, it's not, none of that is confidential info, it's just saying this is how the school does things, it's required to do these things by law, and this is the way that it gets done. And I think it could be very helpful to somebody, perhaps, to be able to see that, and find it. Could be useful to students doing research on public policy as regards to education. So there's a lot of reasons I think that it could be out there.
I just wonder if we're really grasping at straws here and trying to invent things that don't actually really exist, and we're like, okay, well, there needs to be a policy that's specific to parents. Like, I can tell you right now that we have a policy that says if you don't, which goes along with law, which you keep saying, like, if parents and guardians are not sending their kids to school, that's when the state steps in. That's already in our policies. So I just don't know that any of these actual other guidelines even exist, and are we just grasping at straws now to say we must make something appear out of thin air? I don't know, but I think you're really gonna find it hard to find anything that is very specific to a parent that's not already attached to the student. It's like students come first, it's education, right? It's school, it's for students. And so any sort of policies and guidelines that should be out there and available to parents has to do with students. I don't think we're gonna find anything that's not gonna, like, that would be to parents alone without students. So I think whether you add parents in or not, it's still gonna be, it's about the students, and the parents will be attached to that. Like all of our other policies where we say parents should know, parents should be involved, parents should be notified. It's still all about the student first.
No.
I never knew the protocol.
You
So
can
we
always,
have,
you
can
can
we have a
always,
guideline on this?
you can always escape
How
and
long
run
do
away.
I have to hold it?
You can always run away and escape. Alex, please.
I mean, I kind of agree with what Bree said in the point, but I think that's also the point of the discussion, is that we don't know what guidelines there are. Fact of the matter is that this existed without any of us knowing about it, and that's Anthony's idea, is that he wants to grab stuff we don't know about. And if that's the case, I mean, I don't disagree. There are already public documents that can be accessed through certain channels. I don't see any harm in them being available.
Can I answer quick? But again, where would we have any sort of guideline that's just the school versus the parents?
Don't know.
It's always attached to the students. It would always be attached to the students, because it's always about this, we need to do this for the student, let's make sure we contact the parents as well. So there's, rarely would we have, other than yes, maybe having like, okay, you have a disgruntled parent coming to school and is trying to get in and doesn't have proper ID with them, and they're like being very rude, but like that would be for any community member, whether they're a parent or not. So are we gonna start to add community members to this list too? Like, that's also just saying like general public discourse. Like, if a parent comes to the school and shouldn't be behaving that way, that doesn't need to be a public guideline. That would happen at any place that you go. If you go to a courthouse, a hospital, even if you're at the grocery store and you start yelling at the attendants, like, they're gonna call police and have you escorted. I don't think we need to make up a guideline on how we're going to notify the SRO when a parent is yelling at staff. Like, they're gonna, if you're making threats, if you're being extremely rude, they're gonna ask you to leave. Would be the same case at any place. That's what I mean by we're grasping at straws to come up with guidelines that are just very specific to parents only.
Right, we're currently on a motion to add the word "and parents." Is there any other discussion? I just want to clarify, whenever we use the word parents, I think that should always be parents/guardians, correct? But I
Yeah,
don't know that, yeah,
change that, yeah.
I was gonna say. Any other discussion, seeing on that? Alright, all those in favor of the motion to add the words "and parents" to the current amended motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get the names?
No, we do not, hang on.
It's getting hard. All those opposed? That takes us back to the motion originally. Anybody have any questions on the existing motion? Do we need to read it again, or do we know what we're talking about? I think we're good to know what we're talking about. So, all those in favor of the motion as amended and amended? It's been amended twice, for the record. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the same as the
Yeah, no,
previous
I
one.
just,
All those opposed? Alright, thank you, folks. Alright, that takes us to, you wanna sneak away for a second? Alright, oh, just out of curiosity, is this, everything gonna be the same? Like, is it be able to see it, we don't really know?
I would not assume that.
So, this one might not be on the,
No idea.
so this one might not be on the file on YouTube or wherever it is?
Just sound for sure.
Sound for sure.
And I don't know how good it is.
I'm confident there will be video to some extent.
Okay. All I know is this one scares me because it looks like a spider. And I don't like spiders.
Okay, noted.
Thank you. Deal with the owl better. Alright, 10.2, nomination of Turner Primary School Principal.
Yes.
Why are you excited?
I would
I
like
think
to.
it's gonna be a great thing for Turner Primary School, and I can just go off into the sunset.
I'd
In
like
my
to
convertible.
introduce Elaine Gammon. Elaine, if you would please stand up. Elaine Gammon is currently the instructional coach at Turner Primary School and is well regarded and respected by staff and administration that she works with. She dabbled in a principal job a while ago and said no thank you, but had, through her experiences in the district and in instructional coaching and at Turner Primary in particular, decided that it was time to go back to that, and we are very, very excited that Elaine is gonna be taking over for Kim. Kim has done awesome work, is leaving that school, ready to roll, to continue the great progress they've been making, and Elaine's been a big part of that, so I'm very excited. I wanna thank Alex for all the time you put in, as, he missed the very last part, but he put in a lot of time, on the committee, so I appreciate you, Alex, joining. We had a good representation of staff in the building. Lindsay participated, our guidance counselor, Maureen McDonald, and then I think we had 4 or 5 teachers. Rebecca also was on it, so it was a big group. There was 11 of us doing the interview, and then I did a second interview with Elaine, and feel really, really confident that TPS is gonna be in great hands.
Thank you very much. Welcome. And thank you, Kimberly. You did an excellent job. Thank you for stepping in. I know that.
Yeah.
Just thank you.
Relax.
Are you nervous?
No,
We just hired her.
very excited
We
about
just
it.
hired her. No, we're not voting on it. All right. At this point, after all of that, do we have a motion to hire this young lady? Okay, we have Jenny and a second by Kyle. All right. All those in favor? Jenny? All right.
Congratulations, Elaine.
And retiring?
Yes.
Congratulations on retirement.
I do believe there are sub-jobs options. There are
I
sub
already know what I'm gonna do, I still wanna be around kids, but.
So you're subbing?
No.
Bus driver.
I'm gonna be. Actually, I've been told I have really good driving skills. But, I think I'm gonna be like the Grammy that comes in and just volunteers in pre-K and K. Up in my community, I'm a Peru girl, so, that's a community that needs a lot of, those kids need a lot of loving, so that's where I'm gonna go.
Well, enjoy. Alright, our last item, other than number 11, which people race for, is 10.3. Am I correct? I think that's our last item, yeah. 10.3. Consideration and approval of the curriculum committee's recommendation of the visual and performing arts curriculum. Gabby, do we have copies of this?
Teresa.
I know, but I want Gabby's controls the printer. I'm
No.
kidding.
I
She
have
told us
no
we-
idea.
she told us we did.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
You approved
No,
this?
you were asked.
I know.
Martha
I
was
was
really clear on
waking her
that.
up over there.
No, I'm awake. I just didn't know what you were asking me for.
Alright,
Another one?
do we have a
Right,
motion
sorry.
to accept the new curriculum for visual and performing arts? We have a motion, you sure you're the second? I only see you.
I said so moved.
Oh, okay, thank you. Kristen,
Oh, sorry.
do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Kyle.
2 in a row, Kyle.
Got that one too.
Alright, any discussion on it? Anthony?
I'm gonna be recusing myself because I have actually written curricular material for visual arts, so, I'm tremendously interested in this, but I will not weigh in.
Anything else? Alright, seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Alright, with that, thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Guys, this is our shortest meeting this year.
I want you all to wish Jenny luck. She's riding with me. God help her.
Good luck.
Good luck.
It's true, I mean, but it wasn't a real board meeting, it was just